Welcome back to the Kind Heart Homestead channel. In this series, I'm talking about potential ideas for our move off-grid as far as what we're going to build, what we're going to live in, and kind of the order of operations, things like that. In the last episode, I mentioned that I would start sharing some of my designs with you. Well, this is the first design, and in this video, we're focusing on yurts. I've spent the past year or so researching yurts, looking at YouTube channels, families who live in yurts, trying to understand how durable they are, how fast they go up, things like that. Well, with us, we want to move up to the mountains, a bit higher altitude, cooler climate. We're potentially looking for properties in Tennessee, North Carolina, or Virginia, trying to maybe stick around the Appalachian Trail or the Blue Ridge Parkway. One company that I found in Floyd, Virginia is called Blue Ridge Yurts. They have a pretty good offering of different yurt sizes and features, not as many as some of the larger yurt companies on the West Coast. But this could potentially be a local source of yurt kit for us, especially if we lived somewhere in Virginia. One thing that I'm looking at is 24-foot yurts. That would give us around 450 square feet of living space. We'd have to build an addition to have a metal roof for rain collection. And since the fabric on the yurt roof can't accommodate that, at least from this company, we would need an addition anyway. The bonus is that we'd be able to put a private mudroom / bathroom in this area. This structure, built to the side using conventional framing, is 8 feet by 16 feet. And I'd like to go over some of the cost breakdowns for you. Just so you know, I've spent a while looking up local costs of materials on Home Depot and Lowe's websites, along with the quote for the yurt kit, trying to figure out concrete costs, things like that. And I've come up with an estimate around $44,000. I'm sure there's some expenses that I haven't thought of, but there's also probably some expenses that we don't actually have to do. But basically this would be $21,000 just for the yurt kit alone from Blue Ridge Yurts. That does not include the framed deck, which they do give plans to construct, and I've built my design here based on their drawings. This would be around $4,500 in materials, where the yurt kit would then sit on top of it. This bathroom addition would be $6,500 in materials. That includes the roof, and you would see that there's 18 concrete footings here. These would probably be the most minimal sized sonotube footings that you could potentially do. Local codes would probably require something larger, but this would be at least $500 in concrete. As far as electrical, plumbing, flooring, and a chimney flue, that would be another $4,500. And then the fixtures, such as like the toilet, the air conditioning, wood stove, water heater, and fridge, that would be another $7,000. So this is basically all the cost to dry it in and to make it a functional house, something livable where you can cook and refrigerate your groceries and heat it and things like that, not including cabinets and countertops and furniture and things like that. That all brings it up to the $44,000 mark that I mentioned before. So before you get too excited and assume that's really cheap, I want to talk about the pros and cons. Obviously, the goal of the yurt is the speed and setup. These date back to ancient yurts, which were set up just on the ground and moved along. I think they would be bundled up on horseback. Maybe the Mongolians and people did stuff like that. But these days, it can go up pretty much on any foundation you want. Another benefit of the design that I have with this platform is you could potentially put it on any type of terrain, as long as you can get these boards and the concrete down to form the stilts. You can put it anywhere. The unique design has some obvious appeal. Eventually we could use this as an Airbnb, and people like to visit scenic areas and stay in structures that they don't typically get to see around where they live. So log cabins, school bus conversions, yurts. I've seen a number of things on Airbnb, and people are willing to pay a bit extra to have these unique experiences. This yurt kit would be specifically the extra height version, with the potential of installing a loft later, either for sleeping quarters or storage. I don't have that budgeted in this price, but that could be just potential expansion in the future. I do want to talk about the cons next, which in my opinion do outweigh the pros. Last time I spoke to Blue Ridge Yurts, they had a order backlog, and it could potentially take months for this custom yurt to be produced and be available for pickup. Another thing about yurts that many people wonder about is the insulation. You can get a pretty minimal insulation package included in your price, which I've done. However, in the research that I've done, when you're talking about heating or cooling systems, you have to triple the heating or cooling capacity of your unit to be able to accommodate this type of structure that lacks conventional insulation. So either a 3 times stronger wood stove if you're using that for heat, or 3 times stronger BTUs for an air conditioning system. And I do have that factored into this price as well. The crawl space, while it does give you that flexibility to be on any terrain like I mentioned, you're exposing it to the elements and to animals. And that's one reason why typical crawl spaces are sealed in, either with cinder blocks or some other type of skirting material. You do want to try to regulate the activity underneath. There's no rain collection built into this type of yurt, at least from this manufacturer, so we'd have to have a separate structure nearby to harvest rainwater off of a metal roof. Obviously a yurt is round, and that presents some unique challenges as far as the shape and furnishing go. Unless you want to start cutting the corners off of all of your countertops and tables, you're going to lose some space trying to put square furniture in a round space. The lifespan also presents another challenge. You're only going to get maybe 15, maybe 20 years out of the fabric that goes around the outside of the yurt. And then a huge concern for a lot of people trying to build off-grid is permitting. At least in the states that I'm looking into, I haven't really been able to find specific places that don't have permitting or don't follow code as far as building structures are concerned. You might be able to get around that by arguing. I think there's a loophole where if you're using renewable sources of heat, you don't have to conform to the R values required in the building code. I don't know if that's been successfully argued with local inspectors before, or if it's more of just a conceptual thing that high-profile jobs are meant to satisfy. But you might have a challenge permitting this structure. You might need to argue that it is a temporary structure and that the cover only lasts 15 years. And if you could successfully argue that, maybe it would be more in a category of like a camper or something. I'm not exactly sure, but that unknown, for me at least, might write this off as a viable option. So that's basically it for my yurt design. Let me know in the comments if you do enjoy your yurt, or if you've stayed in one before. If you have any other pros or cons that I've missed here, I'd like to hear them. And if you can think of any other costs that I might have missed that might really make this break my budget. I'm trying to stay under $50,000 if I can, at least for the dried-in habitable structure. Let me know what your structure has been when you moved off-grid, and I look forward to talking about my designs with you. So stay tuned for the next video. Thanks.